So I've been thinking about this idea of tradition, but from a different angle. I have been thinking about it from this idea that like throughout our life cycle as human beings, like what is the role of like children, adolescents, adults, and elderly? Well, I think that there's this really interesting trend that in a lot of times in our society we don't do this, and it's like, oh, I can see why everyone feels really disconnected. Like I don't feel very connected to other generations in this community, like the way that Americans are living right now. And so I think part of that is that we don't have a way to bring each other value that everyone agrees is valuable. So like we want children to learn from adults, and we want adolescents to learn from adults. And then when we become adults, we don't want to learn anymore. But when you look at like the life cycle of like other things where like physically, for instance, early on in your life, you tend to have a lot more people around you kind of like helping to make life happen around you for you, right? And the same thing happens way, way later in life. If you live to really, old age, even if your health is, even if you're in good health, there tends to be like, either you have a family or whatever, or you have to have kind of like community around you to kind of facilitate life. And so this idea that we're super different, at any point in this cycle is a weird tradition of ours, is to look at this human experience in this linear way. So I conceived it. I was like, well, what if we had it a little different? Whereas like, well, obviously when you're young, you learn from everyone who's older than you. But as you get older, you still have things you can learn from people who are younger than you. And I think that that's part of how we all stay fresh and current and up to date. So you don't get left behind by culture. You know, yes, there's some stuff that like in the adolescent space that like it's part of it. It's supposed to be temporary culture because it's a high activity where people are experimenting with their consciousness for the first time and they're exploring things in new depths they never explored before. So culture has a real high turnover rate. We come up with lots of goofy ideas and some of them stick, some of them don't. That's and then you kind of move out of that phase of life and you bring whatever those experiences are with you, and then you start crafting a life, right? But like I found it as a dad, I love learning from my kids. That way I can still be living my life and taking care of them and doing my thing. And yet I now have these young dudes that I have like in my life where they come up and they show me cool stuff that I hadn't seen before that I wouldn't be looking for because I got work to do. I got stuff going on. But because I have a trusting relationship where I can trust that they're out there seeing the world and that they've got new stuff to bring to me that keeps me fresh and up to date without me having to try hard to do that. Meanwhile, I also have elders who have more life experience than I do. Now, that doesn't mean they have all the answers, right? Just because I drive a car doesn't mean I know how it works, right? And it doesn't matter if I've been driving it a long time or not. That still doesn't help me understand how it works. So just because you've been on this planet a long time doesn't necessarily mean you understand how life works. But you have been on the planet long enough to have had experiences. And those experiences, without the extra context, without trying to say what it means or whatever, oh, I lost my job. Okay, that's an experience that somebody can, do something with. Hey, oh, because all the immigrants took my job. No, that's okay. So clearly, one of these is a real experience. The other one is some assumption that you made about why that happened. And so when I'm learning from the next generation above me, that had come before, I say above me, I guess like I'm thinking like they were on the guest list. They were first up, up on the list. But anyway, before me, the people who came before me, I am eager to learn from their experiences, their feelings, and their stories about what they did in their time. I'm not as interested in what their assumptions are about all of it, right? And that experiential wisdom, though, has a lot of value for me as a dad, somebody who's coming through at a stage of life that they've already been through. They went through it at a different time with different economics, different culture, different everything, but they still are human beings just like I am, right? And so that experience is like really valuable. As long as we don't take it as holy writ, right? As long as we don't, also absorb the assumptions that they had with their limited point of view back when they were younger and didn't have the years and years and years of experience to build on and the perspectives and all the tools like the internet like we do now. So I don't expect older people who haven't engaged with newer culture to have newer updated understandings. We update the phone software. You got to update your mind, and your cultural software as well. And so even if somebody hasn't done that, they still have, this value that you can glean. But it's real important to to not confuse like somebody's experience for their opinions or their opinions for their expertise. These are all three different sort of things, right? And so as I'm getting older, I'm happy to be learning from the generation before me and the generations that are coming after. And then as you get way later into life, I think that the more you learn, like it's the opposite of when you're a child. So when you're a child, it's like you have everyone ahead of you who has all this life experience that you don't have access to, and so they connect with you and they give you impressions and understandings and lessons about that life experience, and that informs how you craft your path through the world, right? But then on the far side of that, people are like, oh, I'm really old, I want to share my wisdom and share my stories, and I think that's good. But I think if we're sharing our stories, sharing can also mean receiving. You give stories and you receive stories. And I think that if you're older and you want to feel connected to the younger generations, the solution there to be able to really have value and not be left behind, truly to be able to keep up. Like, oh, what are these kids doing with these phones these days? I'm like, I know for sure at any age you can learn how to use a phone. And if you got a kid who's willing to sit down and show you, if you just sit and watch them and listen and just kind of be present with them, you learn, because that's a human thing. You don't have to be young to learn. So there's all these assets. It's like, oh, I'm getting old and I'm becoming irrelevant. You don't have to. That doesn't have to be that way. And the people who are younger than you are your best asset. When you're the old one, it's not about showing other people a world that's in front of them. Instead, now you're getting younger generations showing you the world that you helped to create, for better or worse. And they're also the ones who kind of get to show you the fruits of the labors that your generation had, like, oh, we wanted life to be easier and better. Cool. Teach me about the new world that you're living in. How did it land? Is it working out? Is it not working out? These are really important questions. And, it could be like, oh, I spent 30 years of my life or 40 years of my life working and working and working. I didn't get to keep up with the news. I didn't get to keep up with my skills. There's things I wanted to learn and do. I never got around to it, and part of what's cool is that, like, if you're able to tap in and learn from this new generation, you find, oh, well, there's probably lots of opportunities. Like, you find, oh, for one, I thought old people just didn't do stuff like that. Meanwhile, you hop on the internet and the kids will show you TikTok and you see some old person like you across the interwebs just doing that thing that you thought you were too old to do. So like, this is how, like, your whole life can be transformed and enriched beyond what you ever imagined. And sometimes it's the younger generation that is the one to bring that to you. So I'm really grateful for that whole relationship. I'm grateful for the wisdom of my ancestors and my predecessors and my parents, and I'm grateful for the wisdom and lessons from my children. So I found that all of that has just enriched my life. And so that's a tradition that I'm all about. I want maybe that's the new tradition, is that no matter where you are in the stages of life, that you're opening your mind to learn from people before you and coming after you. And I think that really enriches us in a big way.